when you look at industrial competition, globalization is for the control of markets and resources. And in respect of markets, I showed in here, when you look at Dunlop, I'm sure we're all familiar, with Dunlop in the country, but no longer. Way back, Dunlop had an 8 billion plant, rotting away. And why did Dunlop go under? Dunlop went under in Nigeria after operating for 45 years. It closed its 8 billion plant, way back in 2005, And what was the reason? Dunlop, now where we are now having imported tires all over the place. The reason for it is that Dunlop invested $800,000 and electricity generation while paying half the amount as electricity to the PACL. The high cost of production due to unreliable electricity, stable government policy, influx of cheaper tires, saw to the demise of Dunlop. And government said, so Dunlop could no longer come. But you can see the factors that, contributed to this. Then this one, I don't have to go to this. This one has to do with land grab resources that we have to be careful. And some countries now are looking all over Africa, to really take over land. In some places now, the Chinese and all these Indians, they're having 99-year lease on lands, lands that, they are using to now grow sufficient for export back to their countries and different. Some people have said the land grab is another, kind of globalization of our, economy. By 2010, these were struck for 140 million acres, 75% in sub-Saharan Africa, according to World Bank. And it's because Africa is big. You see in there, Africa can take in is 11.7 million square miles. So it can contain all these countries, can fit inside Africa, USA, the whole of China, the whole of Europe, Argentina, India, New Zealand, they could fit into Africa. So you could see Africa being looked into in terms of land and land being made available. But then we have to be cautious of this. For example, I said with 99-year lease of 2,000 acres, a Saudi Arabian investor brought in Spanish engineers and Dutch water technology, hired 1,000 women to pick and pack 50 tons of food a day in Ethiopia. The food supply is driven 200 miles to Addis Ababa and flown 1,000 miles to the shops and restaurants in Dubai, Jeddah, and so on. The same company grows, So, and China has heavy sovereign wealth, to invest. 332 billion then, years back, which it's doubtful if any Western country can compete with China for any job, because the source of fund is almost like zero interest. So what we are saying that the consequences that we have to look at in our industrialization is the fact that unregulated economy, concentration of power, loss of jobs, brain drain. These are things we show brain drain, example of brain drains, more people departing than arriving, And the challenge we have, which is the major message here, is that we have to reclaim and build our local economies by working to create and sustain locally owned enterprises that sustainably harvest and process local resources to produce jobs and the goods and services that we need. It's very, very important that our local economies must be, developed. And the imperative for this is that we must seek to understand and hopefully steer the forces that drive globalization and global competition. We have to understand those forces. If we don't understand those forces, we'll not be able to build what we're talking about. So the imperative of knowledge is very, very important, as mentioned. Our level of industrial competitiveness, as shown in here, is very low. We're a factor-driven economy. That is, when they did a study in 2009 on African competitiveness, 23 African countries out of 31 that were surveyed still remain factor-driven. That you are competing on the basis of natural resources available, on skilled labor. Only 5 countries, Algeria, Mauritius, Namibia, South Africa, and Tunisia, efficiency-driven, maybe some technology-driven. But there's no doubt that we have a lot, to do. For example, in here, The Aswa Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Adesina, challenged stakeholders, including research establishment, to join hands in achieving complete replacement of imports of rice, especially while diversifying the industrial use of cassava. And we also the cassava bread. We witnessed former President Jonathan eating the cassava bread from the IITA lab. But who will address the value chain from the cassava farm to the processing bay and the bakeries for onward transmission of innovative cassava bread to our dining table? You can imagine how big the economy could have been if we're able to really achieve, cassava, bread. But I was surprised. I was in IITA about 2 months ago with a group. I was shocked to find that cassava bread is being sold in IITA. I bought it, fantastic. But why is it not getting to the market? We're always addressing the value chain. So these are opportunities that are challenges for our researcher, the research system, to really look at the value chain if we are really going to grow the economy. This is an example that one has given in here. My own take on this is that university have to show commitment to research-driven incremental innovation to support the elements of the value chain in agriculture and other sectors. Today, we can boast of almost 200 universities now. The challenge now is provision of R&D driven innovation as input into the various enterprises. But of course, government has to come in. Again, you have seen this. So, and in here, I gave an example of innovation. Because people kept talking of innovation. People think innovation is big science. No, innovation is not big science. It is just the process by which you master and implement the design and production of services that are new to you and making a difference in your production. So whether your product or services. And it doesn't matter whether the technology is already in the public domain. And I gave an example in here of a technological innovation by a chicken farmer here in Ibadan. Way back in 2002, there was a serious supply-demand gap, poultry section, which was a $5 billion per annum market. Now, he find that increasing supply-demand gap, he found that they could not compete, the poultry product could not compete with prices in the open market. So, he now took it upon himself to go, to investigate what was going on. How come that the chicken coming to Nigeria, from outside, imported? They found that by the time they were able to, with import coming to at 140 naira per kg, it was arriving the country at 140 naira per kg and being sold at 200 naira per kg. But that 200 naira per kg, his own production cost was about 190 naira to 200. So of course he could not compete. So he decided that okay, he would want to compete. And what did he do? He went on he went on the internet to check the sources from which those chicken imported, where they were coming from. He was interested in what technology were they using and things like that could make it so cheap, because for it to be 140 naira per kg upon arrival, you will have the transportation cost, which means that probably the thing was costing probably only 100. So, but what did he discover? It is the tunnel ventilation system, what people call controlled atmosphere system. In other words, he found that if in his pen, where he has his all the day shift, if he has in there controlled atmosphere of humidity and temperature, the chickens will do wonders. And let me quickly show you what has happened in there. When they brought in the old technology, the existing technology, see the parameter, duration to rearing. That is, how long will he rear the day-old chicks before they will be ready, for to be killed? 56 days. In the new tunnel ventilation system technology, only 38. For only 38. And then he could use that his pen where he could only use his pen before 5 times in a year, he could use for 7 times. Average weight of the bird, 1.9 kg. But look at the feed conversion ratio. That is, for the feed being taken by the day-old before they mature is 2.52 kg per flesh. Whereas in the new TVS is 1.88. The chickens were eating less and still gaining weight. Look at the bottom line. The cost per kg of flesh under the existing technology was 190. When he now brought the technology to Ibadan, he was having it at 142 naira per kg. What happened? He brought technology already in the non-outside one, but he brought it to make a difference. in its production. And of course, in no time, it was a challenge because it was a graduate of animal science of about 3 years after graduation that did this. And it shook the poultry world in Ibadan. Okay? Now, another example, which will lead me to the triple helix, is that even in England, the Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food in UK, which is government, commissioned the Research Institute, University, to conduct a 3-year research project to develop a system that will enable broiler producers to breed birds, to be able to, you can see the elements in there. I mean, basically, that is the triple helix again. The same thing that I observe undergraduate employability, the same thing is also here. Government, academia, industry, coming in here. And I can rush to show, okay, where are the people using, this triple helix? That is very, very important. Let me just, okay, this can interest, Now, the key lesson from what I presented, innovation can take place outside the university. Innovation is not necessarily big science. I mean, like that internal ventilation system. It can, however, become a sustainable instrument of competition if it is backed up by an R&D institution. And this happened in Ibadan. Students who took their industrial attachment in the company of this guy who brought in the tunnel ventilation system, when they did the industrial attachment, they made that technology for the first time. It wasn't discussed in classroom. And when they came back to Ibadan, Department of Animal Science, and they did their presentation, it was when then the professor of animal science couldn't believe it, that tunnel ventilation system was somewhere a few kilometers away from University of Ibadan. But I must commend him. He pocketed his price to say, look, take me there, I want to see. And that was how he went there. And from there on, he now started showing interest and then giving it as student projects to have incremental, innovation and so on. That's the type of thing we're talking about. That's right. Then we say government can stand an industrial sector. There are different sectors. Identify technology needs. Challenge R&D institutions to undertake necessary R&D for distribution of solutions. This is what is happening in South Africa. As I will share. This one, again, let me just go to the South Africa. The South Africa case, okay? Just because of time, but you will read it in the slide I will be giving to you. The South African case. South Africa surveyed the different sectors of the economy from point of view of industrial competitiveness. They were able to gauge their level of industrial competitiveness and then challenge different universities based on their capacity to look into the different sectors happening and to see how they could, improve on the level of industrial competitiveness of those actors. And the skill, and the areas that they look at, you will read this in detail in there. They call it technology transmission system. And what happened to the actors in the industrial sector? They improve competitiveness through world-class production technology or services, increase capacity for continued technology assimilation and innovation, because they were in close touch with the micro, small, medium enterprises in the different. And of course, improved and enriched R&D for the university, as well as teaching and learning activities, as you will see. This is South Africa. Look at the different sectors identified in South Africa. Agri-food processing, Cape Peninsula University, Cape Town. Chemicals, that university took them, but the one that I want to really emphasize, clothing and textile technology. Government recognized that in the clothing and textile technology in South Africa, they were not competitive compared to India. They use India, they benchmark against India. And of course, you all know that India had a long history of expertise in textile. So that was their benchmark. They challenged CPUT, Belleville, funding them, go in there, see what they're, of the textile sector in South Africa. See other things, automotive company, different universities being challenged is key, and the university being supported. And you can see in here, this table, if you look at clothing and textile, when they started this in 2013-14, they were in close touch. That university was in close touch with 34, companies. Then, as years go on, 96, 127, a lot more that they want. They went abroad, they went to India, Germany, and so on to study, the textile technology in all aspects, and to bring this back to see what was going on there, and then to see how they could enhance their own competitiveness. Suffice it to say, here, what you are seeing in here is a textile factory at the Cape Town University handling that textile. A whole production scene involving lecturers, students, and actors being brought, from the industrial sector, being taught new skills and so on. For example, using a methodology they call optimized sewing method by Professor Louis, which they copied from Germany. They were able to install a modular production unit in that university, and they brought actors from this, and they were confident to show that, look, they achieved a lot, that their competitiveness matched that of India in that particular area. But look at the input. The input from the university. It's not just this, but also research. And what were you to see? They now created a department of clothing and textile technology in that university. And that department of clothing now offering a 3-year diploma and 4-year degree programs in clothing management, in that campus. That is, it involved a postgraduate program that the students were registering for. And then all this, of course, the program is so popular, they help them to conduct basic research, analyze and implement systems and policy to combine wide range of clothing-related technological knowledge and skills and experience in it. You can see this from research now becoming a postgraduate program with more students, being involved. So that is what we are talking about in the triple helix. Government have to challenge the universities, to be able to help the different sectors. We have in Nigeria the textile sector that is not doing well. We are right. That is a major employment generating sector that has broken down. But what is the approach? How do you want to wake it up? How do you want to increase in the industrial competitiveness? University will have to come in through this, a type of a model that we are talking about. Okay, so let me move, straight to university challenge and research and innovation. To just say that, well, in the university, our research and innovation function, you have already seen an example in there. But let me, because of time, I leave you to read some of this. I give an example here of what I say from waste to wealth, the story of Agamemnon Fertilizer in Ibadan. As typical things that could have, to emphasize the need for us, for the research, the way we approach research, to really be modified in some ways. Here you see in there, this is a market in Ibadan. A lot of biodegradable waste generated in that market. And what happened? In 2001, 2 professors and some graduate students at the Department of Agronomy and the Department of Prevention and Social Medicine, just using only 50,000 naira Senate research grant, develop an organomineral-based fertilizer, utilizing mainly biodegradable municipal waste from that market. Just 50,000 Senate research grant. That time, 2001, we still had Senate research grant. We don't have it anymore. The field testing of the experimental organic fertilizer was highly successful. They tested that organic fertilizer in different ecological regions of Nigeria, both south, east, north, because there are fertilizers and there are fertilizers. They had to look at the ecological situation and they came, to the lab, to do it. And the demand from the farming community could not be met because it was highly successful. Now, raw material research development came in, for them to move now to prototype development with a grant of 1 million to move to prototype. But don't forget, these are agronomists, people from prevention and social medicine. They are not so on. So what did they do? They came to mechanical engineering department. Okay, I can say they came to me to say that they showed me and they said that they want, a proof of concept to develop a processing plant, for this. And I just looked around for a friend of mine who just finished his master's, who I happen to know very good in design and things like this. So I encourage him to take it up as his PhD program. What happened at our departmental meeting? Somebody said, I said that it was not easy. Tried to convince my academic colleagues in the department that a student could hand a PhD degree from the design and fabrication and testing of such a system. I can recall one of them saying, there will be nothing new, and therefore it will be make no contribution to knowledge. You can see, I mean, where some of our colleagues are coming from. Whose knowledge are you talking about? And then then somebody who said that the environment will be able to get that plant somewhere, maybe in Taiwan and so, for God's sake. I mean, is that type of attitude that will take us out, into, really, using research, you know? So anyway, eventually they approved, and the project was highly successful. But what is important in this project is that we got to a stage where it became so successful that Oyo State government came in to now give us 10 million naira to really now have a plant that will produce, large quantities of fertilizer. And you can see some of the elements, you know, of what we designed. Many people, so you can see something started with agronomy, public health, now it's in engineering, now it's in the cashmere. You can see the range of people coming in, different disciplines coming in moving towards commercialization. I want you to take note of that. At a stage now, the PhD student of mechanical engineering, he got his PhD. The 3 agronomists got their PhD, and so on. But no investor yet to take. What is the lesson I want you to learn from this? A research idea can start with 1 or 2 researchers with moderate funds, like the case I've just given, which is just a research grant. But as the research result progresses into the developmental phase, it will move into multidisciplinary phase through the involvement of researchers or professionals from other disciplines. And it will also require significant increase in funding. As it progresses into the pilot stage, more funding is required. Now, whether that system, whether that product or service gets to the market now depends on the investment climate of the country to take it. University cannot continue to be the one, you develop a plant, then you are the one who will now be using it in the market. No, investors must be able to, you know, come in. So most of our research results, we say, oh, the research results just lie in the university, not making impact in industry. It's because local research, local industry and industrial product, to jump into this commercialization, you go through what they call valley of death. And that value of debt is what is shown graphically here. The lower end, you need just few resources and funding, maybe. But as you are going ahead, moving this steep thing you are seeing, the S-curve, you will need more additional discipline. We have to come in, more funding will have to come. And if you don't get this, all your ideas, products, and so on will stay in that valley, which is the valley of death. And it is a special funding that take people, research results to commercialization. We must keep this at the back of our mind. And that's what we are trying to encourage TED Fund. What TED Fund is funding now is NRF, National Fund, is research. But some of those results, if they are to get to the market, the country must have you must have what is called innovation fund. South Africa has 2. They have their research fund, they have their also national innovation fund. It is innovation fund that will take your research result to the market. And so far, we are still to develop that in this country. And it is key that if our research results are to get to the market, we must have the innovation fund. So, that is basically then research team of the future that is interdisciplinary. Like I showed in the engineering, coming in, this and that. We are just using this to just say that, research of the future now, you must be ready to work along with others, especially when developmental issues. Developmental issues are things that usually cannot be handled by just one discipline. You will need to bring in, multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. That is what one is saying, that you can read this in the thing. Then in here, I use this as an example also. As a message to our universities in terms of interdisciplinary, working together, because some of us still like working alone. Now, MDP program, Masters in Development Practice. This was a program at the University of Ibadan, which we competed for under Mercator. We competed with 70 universities in other parts of the world for sponsorship. But the characteristic of that Masters in Development Practice is that it is interdisciplinary. It involves health sciences, because for you to say that you are producing somebody who has Master in Development Practice, it's about people. And about people means that he must know something about their health. He must know something about the natural sciences, social sciences, economics, education, and so on. That program, as conceptualized, it integrates all this: health sciences, natural sciences, social sciences, and then management. Okay. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Professor, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Aha. Okay. Thank you. You can see this also. You can see the screen.
We can hear you, sir. Please just share your screen. Can't see your
Yes, I've shared my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see the screen?
No, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the screen?
No, we can't.
You can see the screen?
No,
Eh?
no. Can you share your screen?
Okay, I'm coming. Yeah. The screen. Okay. Let me bring it back. Okay. 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 Sorry about that.
Yes, sir. You can see your slides now.
You can see the screen now?
Yes.
You can see the screen. Aha.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You saw this screen before. Okay? Okay, can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Aha. Now, I showed something where I said that research teams of the future is interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, that we must be ready to work together, that most developmental problems require multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary approach. Now, but in here, you can read it in my slides. I try to, share with you the experience at University of Ibadan to really show that people must learn to work together. In here, what happened was that Mercator challenged us to compete for the running of a program, Masters in Development Practice. Masters in Development Practice. So, I mean, that we should compete along with other universities. 70 universities competed all over the world, and they were going to pick 10. And we were supposed to write a proposal, and the proposal being interdisciplinary must take, since it's development practice, you are talking about development of people. What I was the VC there, what I did based on my knowledge, that if you put a program in one department and you're expecting other departments to come and collaborate, you are wasting your time. Was to say that, okay, the dean of postgraduate school, because the postgraduate school, which is now probably postgraduate college now, the dean is a dean of deans. All other postgraduate programs report to him. So it is a kind of point that you can coordinate. So I asked the dean of PG school to coordinate the proposal, this writing of this proposal, and we identify individuals in the various departments. Involved. In here, health sciences, in medicine, natural sciences. Forestry, agri. In climate, social sciences, economics. They were all. We identified people who will be able to put together, that type of proposal. And suffice it to say, at the point when the committee started meeting, one particular discipline said they were not going to participate. And what was their reason? They said that anything development belongs to their discipline, and that is not something that we should put anything centrally. And they did not participate. You cannot believe it. And I don't want to, you yourself, which department that one will be, which discipline. Anyway, we went ahead without them, but we were able to get around their discipline in the proposal. And our proposal, we won that grant. We even came third out of 10 approved. What is the message I'm putting in? I'm sending in here is that, look, we must be ready to work together. There are other things now that a single discipline will be the one to relate. If you are talking of developmental challenges or developmental issues, they did not participate. But again, I pleaded with others. When we now got the approval, I think they buried their pride and now participated in the implementation. That is the type of thing we are talking about. We must be ready to work together to address this thing. I leave you to guess what that discipline is likely to be. Now, let me now go to the funding of Nigerian funding, so that I do not waste your time. Like I said, you have opportunity of doing this. The foreign funding sources we have now in the Nigerian university system. You have WHO, IAA, USAID, SIDA, Mercator, World Bank, FAO, NIH. And third fund also through the NRF and so on. They are all in our system. But what is of interest, which I think we should all take note of, is World Bank. You see me taking World Bank commendation at last. It's because World Bank before derailed African higher education, derailed African government. But now they're now moving in. There's a policy reversal now. And how did they derail us before? World Bank derailed us by saying that higher education was not cost effective, and that happened. And that was when they started. Government started funding higher education. Less and less than to the problem that we had of funding. But now, the same World Bank is now showing the case of higher education and research capacity building. And as a result of that, I've heard that the World Bank, under the West and Central Africa, the African Centers of Excellence is very, very, it's a well-conceived, project. They put in $165 million, and then ACE3, recently 70, NUC is the coordinating agency. And what is the characteristics of the World Bank project development objective? Increase quantity, quality, and development relevance of postgraduate education. They are concentrating on postgraduate, which is the research arm. Through this, and the increase in number of enrolled students for master's, PhD, enhanced quality of postgraduate program, But most importantly, improve development impact. That is, how those programs impact, knowledge from research and skill acquired by directly impacting development challenges. And the development challenges that universities all over the world now are using, to define this, and what the previous speaker, the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, all things goals, there are areas that universities should be helping our nation state to address. We didn't do well in the Millennium Development Goals, no. But the same thing must not happen. And it will not happen if government should be following the direction that World Bank is. I will just quickly share with you. The World Bank, they have these centers. I'm sure some of your universities must have competed. It doesn't matter. It's not only public universities, all universities, whether private or public, competed for the grant. And what happens? I will just show, I will briefly show what goes 2, 3, 6, 7 of the Sustainable Development Goals. They were tackling it through research and through encouraging our university. For each goal, attention is drawn to the appropriate World Bank sponsored center. What the center they have sponsored. And in here, goal number 2, end hunger, achieve food security, nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. But World Bank used that as a basic point, to address the question of food security. And what happened? As a result of that, which you will read, there was an African Center of Excellence in Agriculture at Afe Babalola that was funded under the center was involved with training postgraduate and undergraduate students of the university, to acquire professional skills in crop production, livestock production, food storage, and so on. In there, and then they had a number of other programs, the farm, crop division, aquaculture, and seeds, all geared towards tackling the problem of food scarcity. They have food processing, livestock section, making a lot of difference. Then also at Federal University of Agriculture, Makurdi, their own World Bank, they became Center for Biopesticide Research and Innovation. Looking at the use of biopesticides instead of the artificial pesticide, okay, which are safer and environmentally friendly. And in there, they created the program on environmental protection, chemistry, and so on, really involved. And the following MSc PhD program were being used in the center, environmental toxicology, biopesticide, and you can see, this. But most importantly, they were partnering, with stakeholders in the project. Locally, Abasojo farms, look at the different farms they were partnering. Really, more or less like the type of South African model that I showed before. Local and foreign universities, with which they are partnering also in respect of that project. UK, USA, Sudan, that's really been involved. That is the direction we're talking about. Then, in the case of goal number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. Okay, in the area of health, all of us, we have heard about the Center, of Excellence for Genomics of Infectious Disease, ACGID, University. That was the one sponsored by, under the African Center of Excellence by World Bank. But you can see what that center achieved. The Ebola. During the Ebola outbreak, because the center had already been, and they've already developed capacity for looking at infectious diseases. The capacity that they built was brought to bear on looking at the genome of Ebola virus, and they developed something that mentioned in there that with Ebola virus test being carried out, and it really helps in combating, the outbreak of Ebola during then. And a major turning point in the commitment of Ebola outbreak in West Africa, because the diagnostic result could be provided in nearly real time. And how did they achieve that? Through the research capacity building that had been encouraged by World Bank. And then not only that, Lassa fever, also monkeypox, they were developing the capacity, and I'm sure COVID, they will be done. This is towards capacity building. Most importantly, the message I want to pass across. Towards capacity building, the National University of Union approved postgraduate programs for redeemers. MSc PhD in molecular biology and genomics. And the center has trained over 600 students in the West and Central African regions, 80% being Nigerian, through short courses, Masters 62, PhD 41, and that's as even in molecular biology and genomics. So you can see the trend. The research leads to capacity building through postgraduate program. So we have to really, I mean, it's a concept that I believe that universities can adopt and to make, different. And then I don't have to ensure water, they have, I think, AC water in another university, and then another overarching goals of which you can read. Then you have modern energy, and energy is a big problem in Nigeria. So they were able to identify, renewable energy that that the centers that they approved a center, in here, I say like the center. AC Fuels, that's a photo, Federal University of Technology, Owerri. I mean, they were the one, the center now that have been established to focus on key area of clean energy, electrochemical systems, advanced functional materials, and they were strengthening again relevant introduction to novel PhD, master's, professional certificates program, to tackle this. And research component, very, very, in all this, you will read this, so in there to set up laboratories and things like that, value industry collaboration in that area of energy. That is renewable energy technology. In Nusuka, they also is in electric power and energy, and they mounted based research-driven, world-class research-driven postgraduate program, leading to MH, Masters in Engineering and PhD, electrical power, electrochemical, renewable energy, energy policy, and so on. Okay? Then I come finally to National Research Fund, which I've talked about in there. You see that National Research Fund, over the years, up to 2019, we have funded 241 proposals, grants, out of about 3,000 plus proposals that we received. But what is of interest, in here, you see the breakdown of the 6.7 billion spent 2012 to 2019. But the one I want to quickly share with you is that you see the research areas. I think they have just announced now that for 2021, I think the announcement is out for people to send, and these are the 28 areas, thematic areas that people can apply for research grant, which I do hope that the university probably will join with some public universities to apply. Application, we call for concept notes. Then you search concept notes to determine the successful concept note means that if you are successful, you have to provide the full proposal. And then the full proposal will be assessed, and then from there, we determine the proposal to be funded. So what I want you to see, formal concept note is usually just about 3 pages, 1,500 words. And then you see in here, for 2020 is what I want to share with you, the outcome of 2020. By 2020, Nigerian research system was being accused that, we are not showing, there was money, but no research proposal, but that is no longer the case. As for the 2020 exercise, we received 5,800 concept notes. Under SETI, Science, Education, Technology, Innovation, we received 3,562 concept notes. Under Humanities and Social Sciences, 1,046. Under Cross-Cutting, 806. Totally 5,000. By the time we evaluated, under SETI, we could only recommend 354 out of 3,500. It's like 1 out of 10 that we recommended to go ahead and give us the full proposal. The other one, 146 out of this, 73 other. You see that it's almost 1 out of 10. Let me say clearly, it does not mean that those concept notes that were not taken didn't know. It was because we had at the back of our mind that we have got only about so much allocated for as grant. And it's 50 million maximum ceiling. And we asked ourselves, based on our previous experience, how many grants we will be able to support? And we're able to calculate that it will come to roughly about 200, 220, thereabout. And we also told ourselves, because writing a proposal is not cheap, it's not easy. So we told ourselves that, look, we make sure the full proposal that we get, I think we'll be able to recommend 1 out of 3 at least 1 out of 3 will be recommended for grant, so that people will not feel too discouraged. So that's what informed, the number of proposal concept note we asked to proceed. And what happened in the second stage, out of the 354 that concept note that we asked to develop a full proposal, we could only approve 132, for grant. And by the time they came to Abuja for defense, that came down to 118, because some researchers could not defend their proposal for whatever reason. The other ones also 63 to 60. But you could see that once anybody, is invited for defense, it's as good as you have got the grant. And then you see, the profile of this, grants that finally. Now, what are the sort of reasons that I can share with you why most of these proposals, were rejected? Research scope too broad and unfocused, disconnect between title, little originality, low value addition profile, research content not new, poorly written executive summary. Most people do not know that when you write a research proposal, there's executive summary. Executive summary is the starting point for any assessor. For any assessor. In your executive summary, if you cannot see the real picture of things, surely you will get 4 marks in there, and the person will probably think that it's not a serious proposal. Poorly stated research objective, unsatisfied inadequate methodology for addressing research goals, choice of mundane, inadequate or shallow research content, outrageous budgeting. Because we said the ceiling is 50 million, people felt that they must get to that 50 million, even if they didn't need as much. Again, that affected. And then research advice too localized and so on. Anyway, so the advice we have given to most institutions, not only for a third fund, for research grant generally, is the need to establish a research management office. And what is research management? Okay, research management, and that is, I think, what they really we want information on. Now, research management embraces anything university can do to maximize impact. It includes assistance in identifying new sources of funds, application, advice on costing project, because most people don't know how to cost. Then some you even negotiate, people don't know. Then exploiting research results through commercialization. It's your research management office that will help you in commercialization, linking the result to. So it's a function that's very key. And I know that NUC, Third Fund is promoting, the establishment of research management offices all over there. But we have a lot to gain, from the global setting. When I visited, let me say, advancing mission, these are the functions, okay? For example, when I visited the University of California, research or research, now you find that it is something that is professionally now handled. The research management office at the University of California, during the year that I visited, 2007, awards received was 5,932. New and then ongoing. New award, 2,000. Grant and contract dollars was $500 million worth of research contract. Gift for research, about 18 million. To sponsors, about 518 million. You can see, the high level of, but that office, you need to see it. Really, they are very, very projects. During the year, the number of faculty involved, almost 2,000 of them. And the number of sponsors, about 926 that we are dealing with. So you can see that it's a serious business, for research, management. So the volume of research, you can see, that university, and that's the type of thing we're looking forward to, that our universities need to really strengthen research management office so that this, and what is helping us, when we had this about, almost 8 years ago, Association of African, Association of Commonwealth University came in to help us. And what they advised us to do is to set up, as administration, the West African Research and Innovation Management Association. In other words, they are getting our university in the West Africa to collaborate in the area of research and innovation management. The training, and the headquarters was in Ibadan because they felt that we were quite active. So it was to promote research and innovation management. In the training and so on. There's we have also in South Africa, SARIMA, South Africa Research and Innovation Management. Then North Africa, that is, it is something that is really every university should to really develop their management office. I mean, the structure, if you look at the structure of a UIRMO, which I'm just sharing with you, they have 5 sections: research and policy development, research integrity, research links, finance, and legal. And I've shared with you research and policy development. What are they doing? You know, they promote and coordinate among the researchers, develop capacity of researchers in proposal writing. You know, how to write is that office that we organize. You know, review and approve proposal for submission. It's not a question that a group will just write their proposal and then they will send it to the agency. No, that office will help you based on the experience that they can have, because they can always call on people with experience in the system, you know, to help you package your proposal well. Disseminate, they are the ones also who disseminate information on funding initiatives and opportunities, you know, so that you know what research grants are being advertised locally and abroad. Then identify academic staff, research interests, establish links. Because there are times when you will get funding agencies that will say, oh, we're interested in researchers in your university that are in this so area. And surely you must be able to quickly know what are the areas of capability of different researchers in the system so that you can link them up with some of these. Assist researchers in preparing, writing, packaging, maintain searchable database, research and project development, I mean, operate searchable database that they will develop. I mean, searchable database, publish highlights of ongoing research, draft review, present, you know, so it's quite, that's one unit. Finance unit, you know, work with grant section and audit of the university bosses to facilitate the management of grant. I must say that any grant you get, the university must manage it well, because nothing will make an agency to blacklist you if their research grants are not properly managed. So it's very, very important that that finance unit helps, you know, advance research on relevant financial processes, send out timely alerts, work with relevant units, and so on. I mean, you can read, you know, all this. The same thing, research ethics, you know, coordinates procedure on research for human subjects. Some of researches, even under NRF, Nigeria Research Fund of Third Fund, we insist that if you are working on animal subjects or human subjects, you are supposed to get, I mean, ethical clearance, you know, and this type of unit is the one that, you know, helps. I mean, most universities have ethics committee that will help with ensuring that you really give due respect to the human aspect and element of your. Then monitor policy related to research conduct, integrity, supervise compliance, ensure animal care facilities are maintained and things like that. Then research ethics and integrity, on and on, you know, very, I mean, important. Then research links, you know, those that will link you to private sector needs. They scan the private sector to see what are the needs, you know, for research and bring to the university, you know, to be able to get researchers to show interest. They facilitate linkages, you know, for this, and then provide a director of private sector research development activities. You know, they liaise with faculty and developmental research development officers. Your university research management office, we have links to the various faculties so that you'll be able to see what is going on in all the faculties and departments, you know, relate with relevancy, prepare and submit, you know. Then legal unit, again, the legal aspect, that is what that unit is supposed to help, you know, to provide the legal support, you know, because it is for some research. So basically, in conclusion, what I'm saying here is that global competition requires that we suggest develop our local enterprises to become innovative in order to face the challenges of competition. And of utmost importance is, as shown in here, that our university have an important role to play in conducting both basic and applied research that will lead to knowledge and innovation to support our enterprises. And that the funding mechanism of our university-based research must ensure that new research ideas go beyond the laboratory stage. And that is more or less for the company. We hope that State Fund, I mean, will be moving towards, you know, innovation fund, you know, to help us make sure that our research's result do not, you know, die. You know. Thank you very much. Okay, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Olufemi. Really appreciate the presentation. Do you have any questions from the audience or online viewers? Okay, the absence of none.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Olufemi. And we want to give special thanks and appreciation to Professor Akintanidari, from Provost of College of Medicine. We appreciate your presence, sir.
Thank you.